right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Tim O'Connor.
I'm here, man. It's Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, folks. Yes, trust us. It's totally Friday. Thank you so much for listening here today, wherever you're listening on WYSL, WACK out in New York, or all the places where we're streaming. Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson pages, the Tim O'Connor pages, all those places. Thank you so much for being here everywhere. And I know for folks listening online, feel free to comment, leave your comments, and participate in the discussion today. And actually, so we have a few topics. We're going to talk about some COVID stuff. We're going to talk about Elon Musk, and of course, we got fake news as well. And then before we get to that, though, so like we joked about like creating a TikTok last week, and I did go ahead and create one. There's no content on there yet. Like there will be. I got stuff planned.
We're going big, man. We're going big time. The kids are gonna love us. The kids are gonna love us.
Kids are gonna love it. It's gonna be good. So I made Tim record our first TikTok, and so hopefully it turns out good. Well, I'll try to post that like tonight. But yeah, no, Free Solution on TikTok. It's there. Again, we have no followers. We have no content up there yet, but there will be.
Kevin, I'll make my wife follow us. She watches TikTok all the time. So we're gonna have one follower shortly. I promise you.
One follower at a time. All right, we'll get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, Larry's on there too. You know, like, well, we'll ask nicely for Larry to follow us.
Yeah, he would.
Like,
he follows me on Twitter.
Is follow us. Yeah.
Yeah, he follows me on Twitter.
Yeah. And yeah, no, it's so all right. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. Who's Facebook user? I don't even know who it is.
I don't know. Give us permission to see your name.
I know, right? Quit being so mysterious. But Facebook user says, "Can we discuss the lack of Tom for 52 memes on your walls?"
I wonder if that is Tom.
Is it Tom? Is it Tom? I'm just gonna assume it is. That
it could be Tom. And he's right in asking. I need to hang some Tom memes for sure.
That's fair. Right, Tom. We'll make sure we show Tom some love.
So Kevin, as you may have noticed, and many of my friends and fans may have noticed, I have decided to rename myself, and I am going to call myself the Freedom Variant from here on out. Yeah.
The Freedom Variant. Yeah, okay, that's great. Like my questions, I've many, are, is it contagious? Can I be vaccinated against the Freedom Variant?
I think getting it creates this kind of sense of herd immunity, right? And I'm actively trying to spread the Freedom Variant. Like that is something I'm actively trying to do.
Right.
But then I got thinking, like maybe I want to be like, I am the Freedom Variant, not like. Do you see what I mean?
Not everyone else. You're not spreading the free. You're the free. You have bestowed this title upon yourself.
I proclaimed it and declared it, so I'm covered, right? Somebody said I should have decreed it. I don't know.
Decreed it? But, yeah. Well, like, I mean, you're just giving yourself titles now. I mean, to be fair, my friends who are on the show occasionally have declared themselves like the King of Liberty. So Kevin Fortune, who's been on the show a bunch of times before, calls himself the King of Liberty. So if he can be the King of Liberty, and he has like the Duke of Liberty on that, why not the Freedom Variant? Why not add that to your title?
I couldn't think of a reason why. Like occasionally when I'm driving to work, the caffeine is just rattling through my head and I get these great ideas. A lot of the great ideas don't survive till the end of the day. But when I thought of the Freedom Variant, that was still kicking around in my brain like 12 hours later. So I knew it must have meant something.
See, this is why you'd be great for TikTok though. I'm gonna bring it back to that. Like you pull out the phone and you say whatever's on your mind right then. And then it's on the internet. And I'm sure nothing bad will happen from doing that. Just throw your ideas out there.
I think going back to those Queeter memes, somebody's pleading the fifth and asking if they're being detained. That sounds very libertarian to me. That's Queeter. I love you, brother. We'll get some memes up on the wall. I think that's a good idea. So, guys, one of the things that we got to talk about besides the Freedom Variant is we're heading into another, I think, lockdown. I don't know. What do you think? Kathy Hochul's kind of like getting everybody ready for harsher measures. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, it might be harsh to mention. I don't know that lockdowns are gonna happen because they're politically popular, even among Democrats, and I say that just because, like, that's what she has said. She's like, "Well," and who knows if she'll stick to that, right? But basically saying, "No, we're not gonna do that. It's not it's too costly to the economy." The stuff that we were saying, like, the first time around, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the politicians are reading the writing on the wall and be like, no, no, this will be too costly to us. We can't. And let's see, I have a quote from like a week ago here on it says, I'm not prepared for Hochul. I'm not prepared to shut down schools or the economy at this time. I will not overreact and send the economy spiraling out of control once again. So take it for what you will. But I do think probably more vaccine mandates is probably the way they're going to go. And
She kinda
then
yeah,
maybe mask mandates.
she responded to the Bill de Blasio authoritarian dictate of 100% universal vaccination with saying, we're not gonna do that in the state at this time."
At
I
this
don't know that
time,
she's gonna
yeah.
stick to that, and it certainly was wishy-washy kinda deal there, right?
Yeah. No, that's the thing, and again, I think if we to the extent that we do see, like, any, like, lockdown type of stuff, I think it'll be more like, yeah, you're not allowed to be at full capacity at, in Rochester Blue Cross Arena or something, right? Like, you don't want, like, 50,000 people in the same room. Like, I think that's probably what it's gonna end up looking like initially. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but, like, part of me thinks, like, there's so much pushback on this at the moment, particularly around schools, because like there's people are looking at what happened down in Virginia and thinking like, hey, maybe like part of the reason why people were upset is because schools are getting shut down. I'm hearing stories from parents who are like, yeah, no, suddenly our schools just closed today because we couldn't get bus drivers or the teachers weren't there or like whatever, like all this stuff is happening where suddenly you're left without any childcare, you're left without
Yeah.
any recourse. You got suddenly a 6-year-old who's at home, and you're like, well, shoot, you know. And
I
if you're lucky, you work from home. If you're unlucky, you're like, well, I got to get to work somehow or call
I
in.
I have a kid in school, you probably know that, right? A
Yeah,
teenager, and there was some COVID variant talk, somebody got exposed to COVID. All the kids decided they weren't gonna go to school on Monday, and the superintendent sent out a robocall on Sunday night and said, "No, no, we're all gonna be in school tomorrow." Um, I did get to watch my first wrestling match in 2 years in person, in school,
right
and
on.
one of the most interesting things that I saw was that they are making the kids wrestle masked, and I just I gotta be honest, Kevin, I don't understand that. Like, wrestling is a contact sport. It's
Yeah, at some point, like you're close enough where, and you're like, the mask isn't gonna stay even on your face. Like I don't know if it
no.
matters. It's just, it's one of those things that's probably just to make people feel better.
Let's talk about the success of their game plan, though. Schools, even before masking, were not any kind of ever super spreading event. There was occasional exposure, there was occasional cases of COVID, but they were always almost universally mild. And guys, I'm not making light of COVID. We have to accept the reality that kids are not they don't get beat up as often by COVID. Okay. So, but the success of their policies is what we want to talk about. They have continued that they have continued along the lines that kids can't spread COVID. And that is thanks to they have teachers checking their masks. They have people going around at events and making sure that their masks are properly positioned. Eh, Guys, I like to yell at wrestling matches. I couldn't yell effectively. It was kind of depressing with and I did wear a mask. I did comply. I know that's going to disappoint a lot of
Wow,
you
what
guys.
a sheep. What? No,
I
I'm just kidding.
know, man.
No, no,
They've been
I'd say about like if it like a business or whatever is like, you need to wear a mask. Okay, fine. I'm vaccinated. Shouldn't have to wear a mask. I'm not complain about it. But Mr. Freedom variant
That's me, man.
comments online. All right, actually, so Mr. Freedom variant, we do have to head to a break. But
Ah,
thanks, folks, for listening to A Free Solution. Appreciate y'all being here. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes with even more. Talk to you soon. And it's about 10 minutes. But yeah, all right. Hope the video we made was long enough.
Yeah. We can make longer videos. I know TikTok's all guys,
Wait,
this is bonus content for you, the internet viewer. TikTok's videos are like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Some guy did some incredibly like long 3-minute mashup. He's got millions of views. I'm gonna do a mashup, like, but it's gonna be brutal.
right. I got another idea how to extend that video. I'm gonna do something. I got plans.
Nice. We are
I'm
gonna be
putting way too much thought into a video that's gonna get like 5 views on there and like just barely follows a trend, but it's all right. Wait till you see the second one. Hopefully it's good.
Oh, it'll be great. Because remember, people out there in the internet world, likes, comments, shares help spread the freedom variant.
Oh god. Uh okay. So we'll head back at 11:30.
All right, that sounds good to me.
So means 23:30. Just run out. Yeah. Doing some show math.
Yeah, you're good at that. I have a hard time doing it.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by my co-host Tim O'Connor, Mr. Freedom Variants. Thank you so much for listening today, wherever you're listening on WYSL, WACK, or all of the online places, or the podcast too, wherever you're listening today. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we're talking about some COVID stuff
Yeah.
before the break. Tim, do we have anything to add to that?
Well,
We
we
want to go
do.
from there.
We do. The freedom variant has a plan, Kevin.
Oh,
The
oh
freedom
boy.
variant is going to go out to Erie County and protest the mask mandates implemented by that polling cards clown. Okay. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to protest them. And then on the very same day, I'm going to drive to Albany, New York, and I'm going to walk around with a mask on because the Albany County executive, Dan something or other, blah, 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 is like, look, we're not doing mask mandates here. But like, look, COVID can make you sick. You ought to wear a mask. And I'm just like, that almost makes me wanna wear a mask. So,
He asked nicely, so
he asked me
that's
nicely, and he's like, "Look, COVID's serious. We don't want it spreading. Can you wear a mask?" And I'm like, "That kinda sounds like good advice from a government agent." And I'm like, I don't know. I
at
was
least well
inspired.
intentioned.
Yeah, I was inspired. So, Erie County early in the day to protest wearing masks by walking around screaming my mouth off about everything that's wrong with masks, and then Albany County later in the day, fully masked, going and sipping on iced tea or maybe, I don't know, I like caramel macchiatos or something like that.
Caramel macchiatos. All right.
Yeah,
Going big there.
I know.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had a caramel macchiato. Sounds
They're
too sweet
delicious.
for me. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. I mean, yeah, it's with the Erie County mask mandate. Uh yeah, the problem with those things is the mandates don't really seem to like work in and of themselves. Again, there's some evidence that some masks might help in some situations, right? But like the problem with the
Sure.
mandates is people often are going to do like the very least possible to comply with the letter of the law of the mandate too. In addition to the other problems, like do we really want to like hurt or cage someone for not wearing a mask or fine them, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, if you wear like a flimsy, thin cloth mask, it's not really doing as much as you think it is. And if you're using that to go, oh, I'm safe and I'm good and I'm better than all the anti-maskers because I'm wearing this like thin, terrible mask. Like, no, it's not. That's not really it.
I
That's
agree, man. Like the mask thing isn't just theater, but I think, guys, as a libertarian, we could get it to this point where there's property rights at issue, and then there's respect for human beings, right? So I can get to where it's very easy if someone is saying, "Hey, to enter my store, please wear a mask." Either I enter the store or I don't enter the store. If
yeah,
they have something that I want and I know them and I like them and they're asking me to wear a mask because they're concerned about their health, I will go find a mask and I will enter that store. But when some heavy-handed government official is saying, "I know science, you wear a mask," I'm like, and Larry Sharp, our buddy, has been making the point. It encourages blind obedience or blind rebellion, that kind of forceful top-down governing, and
blind rebellion too.
I can't do both. I'm more of a blind, like, rebellion guy. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
I'm
yeah.
not
You want to be the guy who's like, well, the government's telling me to do something. Well, I'm
gonna
gonna
do
not
it.
do that now because you didn't ask nicely.
That's correct. I mean, honestly though, I'm an adult. I do doubt some of the mask narrative. I social distance anyways. I live in rural America, man. It's not like I'm rubbing elbows with people all the time anyway. So it's easier for me to not be as concerned about mask wearing as somebody who compared to somebody that lives in a densely populated urban area. I get it. It's a different life experience, you know?
Yeah, that is what it is. If you're able to go outside and spread out and do that stuff again, it's like I said, I get in fights with people about this because I'm like, it's not that masks don't work at all in all situations. It's that the mandates haven't been as effective as some of the proponents have said, and the um some of the masks that like people are using aren't as effective as people think
All
either.
right.
And so that's
Yeah. You
so
can see
there's
some
evidence.
masks are theater masks. They're just
Yeah.
odd because they're like, I don't even like this wearing this mask. And like the mesh ones or like
Oh
people are
yeah,
wearing fishnet
that
ones.
stuff.
They're
Yeah.
making a mockery of it.
Although, yeah, I mean those folks, they're complying, right? They're wearing masks. There's on their eyes. Um, yeah, I don't know. Well, what should we talk about? Should we talk about the Elon Musk thing yet, or do we still have
Let's get started with Elon Musk. He may be able to take us
Elon
through two
Musk?
segments, to be honest, because he's just popping off all over the
Ah,
place. Right?
yeah. Talk about Daddy Elon. All right. So he said recently, government is the biggest corporation with a monopoly on violence where you have no recourse. What do you think of that statement?
Well, I think it's obviously correct. I get into this area where people like run government like a business, and I'm like, yeah, but their business is fraud, coercion, violence, and force. Like, and taking your property and your hard earnings. Like, so yes, Elon, thank you for saying that. But let's also be honest about Elon. His job, as he sees it, is credit harvesting, is collaborating with the government for huge payouts. He ate Cuomo's lunch over and over again. Let's be honest. Like he got so much free stuff off that guy and delivered about half of what he said he was gonna. And I don't know. Storing electric and batteries doesn't make as much sense as having nuclear power in your backyard, bro.
Yeah, literally in my backyard. Approve it, Rochester Zoning Board. Uh,
Prove it. Sh-
um,
So Elon's on fire. What do you think? What do you think about what he's saying there?
oh, so yeah, again, like he gave this interview, and I'll share the link to that interview. Well, a link to an article about that includes a link to the interview because the interview is in the Wall Street Journal, which is paywalled. So,
All right.
but like he had some good quotes in there, right? Like, he's talking about like, are you going to accept like money from like the government and the Build Back Better bill? Are you excited about that? But and he talked about when in response to that, he talked about like how the federal deficit is nuts. He says like you can't just spend 3 trillion more than you have each year and expect, don't expect something bad to happen.
Yeah.
They pointed out like, well, this is going to benefit you. And he's like, well, government should be more of a referee than player on the field. They should get out of the way, not impede progress. Okay. Yeah. All good stuff. And then that quote like is something that like we kind of acknowledge all the time, right? Like they have a monopoly on violence. It's literally what the government does. It's not like a controversial thing to say. Like they have a monopoly on legitimate violence, meaning that they are the only ones who are allowed to use violence to get people to comply with their will and like not have anyone necessarily hold them accountable to it as long as they do it in a lawful way, right?
Absolutely. They and even there, they can even get away with it unlawfully to a certain extent. And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about indecent. There's a lot of decent human beings in law enforcement, okay? But they get benefits of the doubt where when none should be issued. They get trials where anybody else would have had to plea out just to keep themselves from getting life in prison. And then on top of that, a lot of times they win those cases. I think of the Daniel Schaefer case, and I'm still horrified by that. That guy got his retirement, got to retire, got tried for what he did, and got away with it completely. Other than he lost his job as a police officer. But let me tell you, if you ever watch the video, you know that guy should have never been a police officer to begin with.
Yeah, right. And so, but this is the type of stuff that we have to grapple with, right? Like on like the kind of street crime level, and then also on like the big corporate level, right? Like if you
Yeah.
don't obey the government, like they're able to take everything you own. for better or worse, right? Like sometimes we kind of
Correct.
want that, right? If someone's going to hurt someone, either like again on that individual crime level or like a corporate crime level, if you're damaging a community or hurting people, all right, yeah, like we want some accountability there. It's just a
We
matter
do.
of like how how far are we willing to go to let the government like micromanage every aspect of like these corporations when politicians for better or worse do not understand many things that go on in industry. They can't possibly understand that because things are too complex for them to do so. So we end up with thousands and thousands of regulations that are, you know, crafted oftentimes by the industry themselves, by the biggest
We do.
players, and that regulatory capture. And then it's hard for new players to come out and like make innovation in that space. And so he talked about some good things where again, sunsetting some regulations, like, should we have a more streamlined process for reevaluating what sort of regulations we have at the federal level and kind of getting some of those out of there after they've been in there, or at least re-examining them on a
Yeah.
periodic basis. Again, all great stuff. And it's hard to square that with, I know the dude takes like a ton of subsidies. And in fact, like he's saying maybe this bill isn't a good idea, but like, oh, it would make him probably very rich. Well, he's already literally the richest man in the world, even richer, because the
He's
Tesla is going to benefit from this stuff. Like it's what it is.
correct. And look, he has a wit and he has an observation thing, right? Like he trolled Bernie Sanders and that was epic. Hey, Bernie, do you want me to sell some more stock? Just say the word. I love stuff like that. He had another a pretty viral tweet that went out, and he puts out the notion that the fact that an 18-year-old can't take out a $10,000 business loan, but can take out a $100,000 student loan tells you everything you need to know. And if we want to dice that up and break it down, he's not quite on the numbers, but still, that's actually a pretty interesting point, don't you think?
I do think it's an interesting point, and definitely something that I don't know. Maybe we should probably do a whole segment on that. Maybe not next time, but we should do a whole segment on that one time because uh
The
it's
system.
like, yeah, like getting a loan for a business is impossible for a young person, but like you have this degree that may or may not pay off. Is it still worth the investment? There's cool stuff out there to get all that training for free too. So, why are we still doing it? Why are we still doing this system?
And it's lost any kind of competitive edge that starts at an early age. Your local schools are saying, "Hey, you know what? You got to go to college to have a good life. You got to go to college to have a good life." And it's literally kind of like then they pass them on to college. It's like this system supporting its system with a systemic message, right? I mean, isn't that what's really going on?
It
I
is what's going on. Again, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but
sure.
maybe not. All right, so we're running out of time for this segment. Thanks again, folks, for joining us here on A Free Solution. Appreciate y'all being here. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right, and we're out.
And bonus internet
Yeah,
content for you.
yeah, folks listening, you let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. We got a few things, but
And what were we going to do for the next segment?
we had I got notes on this gentrification.
We're going to do all right. Shout out to my buddy Jared Anderson. I hope he's checking out the show tonight. We'll talk a little bit about gentrification and some of the things he brought up. And then, guys, Fake News Friday.
Heck yeah.
I got some
All
pretty
right.
good. I got a couple good fake news ones for you. Well, you're going to have to determine whether they're real or fake.
Right on. All right, we'll go back in at 25.
All right.
I'll watch that clock.
All right.
Yeah, find my fake news stuff. I got some things. I just gotta like find it.
I understand.
Um
10 seconds.
Just a reminder, I got distracted by my phone.
Yep.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by my co-host Tim O'Connor.
I'm here, man.
Thank you so much for joining us here on WYSL. And shout out down the line to our friends listening over at WACK out in Newark and our friends listening online. Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson pages, the Tim O'Connor pages, wherever you're listening today. Thank you for being here. And again, we're not, I'll spoil it for our radio folks. We're not live on the radio show, so can't do call-ins today because we're not live. But if you are listening online, because we have to record these earlier now, leave your comments. Happy to have you join our discussion. And if you leave a good comment, then we'll put it up. We'll talk about it. And we're talking about Elon Musk for a bit. We're talking about kind of the nature of government regulations. It's a complicated, guy. It's interesting. But we wanted to get the gentrification because it sounds like I haven't caught you yesterday. Well, yeah, the Thursday episode of A Free Solution yet, but apparently the end of the show, the topic of gentrification got brought up.
It did, and we ran out of time, so it ended at like this bad note where I think it looked like a libertarian was just going to go sideways about gentrification and saying, "Hey, like it's freedom, that's what it's all about," and too bad for you. You know, like they buy your property, that's it, you move out. I think that there's a couple of different like issues with gentrification. Some of it's kind of government sponsored. Some of it is like a hipster fad kind of thing. And I think if we talk about the hipster fad kind of thing of people who are doing relatively well financially, moving into a poor neighborhood and opening a business or fixing up a property and maybe buying another property in that neighborhood, there's that's where gentrification may not be the worst thing. But when it's kind of government sponsored and they're like, here, let's give this big rich developer a whole bunch of money to go in and clean up this neighborhood. And what he does with that is buy a bunch of properties, chase people out. That's kind of a different kind of gentrification. Am I
Yeah.
meeting with your understanding of gentrification on that? Because it's sometimes a little hazy with me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good summary. Again, like this is something because I live in the city of Rochester. This is something that like gets brought up quite a bit. It's like an active issue. I'm involved in neighborhood groups, so discussions are happening on this all the time. And some people, you're right, like they say like, oh, they're like slightly wealthier people moving into the neighborhood and like the rents are going up a little bit in some areas. Is that gentrification? The neighborhood I used to live in, we couldn't afford a house in that neighborhood anymore because like, oh, we're not going to buy a 120-year-old house for at the time what seemed like a pretty good amount of money for us. Is like $120,000 house. And we're like, no, it doesn't seem worth it. But people are getting priced out of the neighborhood because of that, property taxes, rent, stuff like that. So these issues are complicated. But you're right. Like if someone's coming in though and they're making substantial improvements to the neighborhood, like that sort of neighborhood churn is a good thing. If you have stagnant neighborhoods where they stay consistently, affordable, but like there's no investment to improve the properties in those neighborhoods, or no, like because you do things like rent control, you fix the price of the rent and make it difficult for you know property developers, investors, things like that to get involved in improving. If you're not able to charge higher rent, then that's where you're running into trouble. And that's where you get like the serious decline in depravity that goes on in neighborhoods, and hopes as well. So many abandoned properties boarded up, but millions homeless. And again, you can look at that and say, well, the state should just pay for all this stuff, but like we have market mechanisms for doing that. And again, sometimes it means like a neighborhood that you're living in, it's harder to stay in that neighborhood, and
Yeah.
that stinks. That sort of gentrification is not a good thing. I get why that it could be heartbreaking to have to feel like you're being forced out of a neighborhood where you may have spent many years. But at the same time, there does need to be some investment in that, and market mechanisms can provide a good way for renewing those neighborhood in a positive way. And then, the neighborhoods that the other neighborhoods around that, people move to those, they live there for a while. As you build new housing, if you allow new housing to be built over time, it lowers relative to the value of of wages in the area, and lower income folks are able to move in.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's
Let me,
that's that's how the cycle ought to work.
let me let me field that question too, or that comment for a second, because in New York, one of the things that has really happened is that we've propped up the people who rent over the people who want to be landlords who want to, let's say, Kevin, you want to buy another house, keep the house that you have and rent it out. That has become it used to be an amazing side hustle, and it was a great way to build generational wealth for a person, a young family that wants to. They had to hustle, like they had to keep both of their houses in shape, or they lost value. They had to.
Yeah.
So it used to be a great hustle, but the government has nearly destroyed that long-term rental market with zoning, with taxation, and it's kind of the law of unintended consequences, right? They want to have nicer neighborhoods, so they make these rules to make income properties better for people. But what in fact ends up happening is that they just don't rent them anymore, and they give up on their dream
Right.
of having a little
Or,
side hustle.
like for me, like I don't really ever want to be a landlord kind of for that reason. Like I've heard stories from other folks who have been them before, and I get like, you want to do the right thing and protect people from unfair evictions and stuff like that. But sometimes, again, I've seen it happen to them, like my neighbors who should have been kicked out of their house, like where they cannot get them to leave. They end up destroying the property. They ends up
Yeah.
costing them a ton of money. They're not paying any rent. And so, like, if you're a landlord, what do? You're like, all right, well, I've got to price in this risk. If I get a bad tenant next, like how am I going to be pulling in enough income to cover the loss of having that bad tenant and not go under myself?
Yeah, so those laws allowed
Adds up.
Airbnb. Yeah, those laws allowed Airbnb to drive a hole through those regulations. Like if you're in someplace close to a cool place to hang out, and they have all these harsh rental kind of rules where long-term rental is just completely unprofitable, you can all of a sudden now go back to maintaining a property with people coming in once or twice a week for a few $100s, and all of a sudden you're back on track with a
And if
cool
they're
side hustle.
terrible, you can review them and like charge them for like any damage too. Like,
You can too, man.
right.
Airbnb makes that happen. Airbnb is the enforcer of that agreement, right?
Yeah.
There's this arbiter thing. The government, on the other hand, is heavily biased in the favor of the renter and the tenant, and that has destroyed the side hustle. It's
Yeah.
destroyed it. And so now the government in my area, of course, as we see all over the place, going into building itself, or granting land and credits to a big developer to build multi-unit families and condense people into smaller areas when we have houses all over our county that are falling into
Yeah.
the ground. And the only, like, people are only doing Airbnb and student rentals versus
Right.
any kind of long-term rentals.
Was it two interesting points about that too? Like I don't really mind like, like increasing like housing density. Like I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. But again, the ways in which we do that oftentimes don't make sense, right? Like we'll just say like, okay, so we're gonna like have you not pay taxes for 20 years.
What kind of
And
inequitous deal is that, man?
yeah, and then like get some subsidies in exchange for that. You have to have like 5% of your property be affordable housing or whatever. And then w-
Oh
all
my
that means
god,
is that
yeah.
when they might have charged $1,000 a month for rent, now they'll be like, well, we got a price in the affordable housing side. We're going to charge 1,200 instead. And now the mean rent in the area has like gone up because like, hey, well, they're charging 1,200. It ends up perpetuating the cycle of making things go up even more. And again,
Is
well
that
intentioned,
law?
I'm sure sometimes,
Yes.
but uh, and then when people start moving to Airbnbs, what do you get after that? Oh well, we got to ban those.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
we have no houses for rent for some
Well,
reason, and they're but and the reason why is because they're all going to Airbnbs now. That not government policy. They're going to Airbnbs. Those
the
greedy landlords are just doing that, and so like we've got to ban those too.
yeah, the government's like, "Whoa, I caused that." You know whose fault it is? Airbnbers. You guys, you
Yeah,
evil profit hungry people who want to actually put some
yeah.
money in your pocket for taking the risk of owning a property and putting in the hours, doing the work,
You
putting in
mean
the hours,
taking
staying.
away housing from the people, Tim?
Yeah,
That's what
well,
you.
it's just this vicious cycle of the government blaming the middle class people it's not big business that they're blaming. They're blaming middle class people who want to put a little extra money in
Yeah.
their pocket and build this healthy retirement, man. It takes
Yeah,
years to
and
make
again, like
money in
it
real
drives those
estate.
middle class folks out. Like the big developers, they still seem to find a way to figure it out, right? Like
Well, the big
they get
developers
it.
eat their lunch like Elon Musk. He's doing that. It's like credit farming. They go in and they go,
Yeah,
you know what I could use? I could really make this happen for you guys. I just need a payment in lieu of taxes for,
there
a
you
third of what,
go.
and a few changes in zoning. Guys, I don't know if you
Little
guys know
things,
this, but
Guys.
libertarians hate zoning. We hate it.
Hate it. almost as
Hate
much as roads. All right,
it.
so thanks so much for
Not
joining
quite as
us
much
here
as
on
road.
a free solution. Appreciate you joining us for this discussion. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, we got to transition to fake news, but that's a hot topic. We got a good
That
comment there
is
from a Facebook user.
Facebook user.
But yeah, that's what people are doing. They have to. They have to. They've already invested. They've already seen that. They've already been told it was a side hustle. Society says it's a great side hustle to build generational wealth. But then they get zoning takes away your property rights, people. Zoning hurts you. Like Oneana's should be this case study of they made a law and the opposite of the intended effect happened. They
Well,
like
so this could be a whole other topic. There's a great Andrew Heaton podcast where he says like government cannot control outcomes. Like is impossible for government to control outcomes. Like no matter how much they say we're going to pass this law and this thing's going to happen, they can only do two things. They can punish and they can incentivize. But they
right.
have no idea whether or not those punishments and incentives will actually lead to the outcome that they intended with those things.
And it looks like it almost never does, right? Like they're building artist lofts in Oneana because the last mayor wanted it. And we've always had this thing, guys. If you're in Otsego County, you know this. Oneana's always felt like it should be competing with Ithaca, right? So Ithaca has done all these artsy things and kind of made a great downtown area for people to hang out. And Oneana, downtown Oneana is attractive, guys. I'm not knocking it, but every single step they take had the opposite effect of what they intended. They made parking a little bit more restrictive so that it looked nicer.
Oh,
So the stores made less sales. So now there's less stores,
I
like it's like, hello.
I'll fight you on that. There should be no parking requirements. None. Get rid of them.
Get rid of them.
It's a tax on business, and that'll mean that some businesses don't do parking, and then other
Right.
people got to find ways. Suddenly, like, oh well, there's no parking around, well, and I have this land. Well, I'll build a parking garage. That's fine. That's good use of that land. All right, fine, we'll do
Well, the
that.
government's going to build a parking garage, and the government did build a parking garage, and now it's falling in the ground. No one really likes to use it, but they're going to build another one, and they're going to fix
Or
that one up.
or
So
just ride your bike in, Tim.
everything's going to be fine.
Ride-
This is fine. Everything's going to be fine.
It's gonna be fun. So ride your bike in. I might have to start riding my bike. I got my car got. It's not. I don't know if it's totaled yet, but
Oh,
someone like I live like across the street from like a one-way street. Someone blew through the stop sign, plowed into my car, picked up their bumper, and then drove off. It's real
they
classy of
You
them.
mean they didn't leave their name and number for you to call them?
They did not. So I got it on camera, but I can't see their license plate. And my neighbor took
Ah,
like a picture and like left a note, be like, "Hey, so I saw who did this and like what the car looked like. Did not get a plate." And I was like,
oh,
"All right." So
unfortunately, the police have a hard time solving cases like that.
yeah, no,
And
it's gonna be
you can understand it, right? There's not a lot of evidence necessarily. No one got
yeah.
hurt. It's a property crime.
Yeah, it's like a small property crime. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
know. Like, it could be just my bumper's damaged or the car's totaled. I thought that last time, like with I had like a Nissan Versa note, and like I love that car. It's great, like little hatchback car. And some Subaru, driven by like a 16-year-old, hit my wife at like 5 miles an hour, and like it broke the light and like kind of messed up the bumper a bit. And I was like, oh, that's cosmetic, no big deal. Totaled it. I was
No
like,
way.
it barely looks damaged. They're like, yeah, no, frame's bent, totaled it. I'm like,
Oh
how?
man.
We just paid it off. Just
Oh.
paid it off.
Did you still have insurance that would cover it, or did you just have to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
the hit?
So like, and we're able to use it, and we bought the car that now got hit. And so,
Yeah. All
all
right.
right. Anyway, this has been a tangent for folks listening online. We'll get back to fake news Friday in a second. We'll say we start at 40. We're going to 52. Anyway, any of you in Rochester know what gray Jeep Cherokee hit my little Prius? Let me know them. I want to get the cops involved. I just want you to pay for my car. That's all. I
That's it.
think that's fair.
Couple bucks, get it straightened out. Let's go.
Exactly.
Do the right thing. Oops.
If you're listening on this live show, yeah, because this ain't going out on the radio. Just DM me. All right. Coming back in a second with Fake News Friday. Welcome back to a free solution. It's Fake News Friday. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by co-host Tim O'Connor, talking about some fake news. Now, Tim, I know you said you had a few things going on.
I have a couple. I'm not sure which one to start with, but let's start with this. Because the internet is a diverse place, right? Like that, it's amazing. It has lots of interesting stuff going on. And you're gonna have to determine whether this is true or false. There is a calculus teacher making his way on Pornhub. Is that a true story or is that not a true story?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I believe I think that's real.
It is 100% real.
Wait,
Well,
is
what
he
a great
doing is he doing calculus or something else?
no, he's teaching calculus. He's let's see. His name I'm referring to an article dated uh October 25th, 2021. And I'm going to Chang Sumath 666 is on Pornhub and he
Oh
offers
boy.
calculus lessons. He actually I guess he has some subscribers and he is
Hey,
basically selling his access to a online course which he actually does make some money on. But he does actually use Pornhub to to teach
you
and
know,
introduce people to calculus. He's had over 1.7 million views, and he has a slogan: "Play hard, study hard." Could you? I don't know. I've never been to Pornhub, so I don't know what it's like, but I can only imagine.
You know, yeah, no, so that makes sense. I've heard about people doing stuff like this before. Like for a while, I think it might have been Reason Magazine that did it. Like they decided to go on that site and release like 3D gun printing lessons and like how to access like the dark web or something and
Nice.
like there's a couple other things that like were a little bit too spicy for YouTube. And like Pornhub is like more permissive about like what they allow on their site, apparently.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they had some of that content on there. So occasionally people like the calculus thing like sort of surprises me because you could just do that on YouTube like that's loud. Um
I think that
I mean, unless he has a certain spin on it, like I don't know.
I don't know. 1.7 million views, man. He's doing something
If it
right.
works, it works. If like if you want to go on that site and you want to learn some calculus, like good for you. Like that sounds like a great use of
Mom,
your time.
I'm studying calculus.
Yeah, just studying calculus. No, I'm not
What?
looking at it's just calculus. See?
See? I think it's like the side video or something, right? You ever see the old magazine trick? I don't know. These are things I've heard,
Oh
seen
my
pictures
goodness.
of.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
heard.
anything
Yeah, no,
about this stuff.
no, that's funny though. That's great. That's great. Whatever works for you. All right, so I'll get the next one.
All right.
Um, so is the country of Ukraine doing diplomacy by meme now? Is that real news or fake news?
All right. So look, I know that the president of the Ukraine is he's a former like radio host, shock jock in Ukraine. So like I think I'm gonna go with that's fake, but I find it plausible. Like, I'm not gonna be surprised if I'm wrong.
Right. So it's a bit of an exaggeration to say that they're doing diplomacy by meme. That's a bit
Okay.
of a stretch. But they did put out a tweet. Like you ever seen that types of headache meme? It says migraine, hypertension, stress, and then on the last one it says living next to Russia. And it's the all red.
Oh
And
my god,
so
that's
this was from
perfect.
their I had to look it up because I assumed it was like just fake, like someone like trolling, and I was like, "Oh, all right." Now I look at it, it's like, oh, here's the official blue check like Ukraine Twitter account like tweeting out like headache memes
Man,
about
I'm
Russia.
telling you, man, the guy, I love it. That honestly, I find occasionally memes are profound. I find them to be some of them to be incredibly funny, and so that's an actually like, can we just save the world through memery? I mean, wouldn't that be
Possibly.
awesome? I mean, what if
Memes can save the world. That's
memes to save the world? The Ukraine one would be like number one right now.
yeah.
The ones that make fun of Greta Thunberg, those are pretty good too. Like they would be contributing to making the world a better place. No offense to you guys that like Greta, but come on, man. We popped up a 16-year-old and she's not a scientist. Knock it off.
Yeah, listen to someone qualified like Tim, the
Tim
freedom
does.
variant.
The freedom variant does understand how to analyze data. So there, Kevin.
There, all
So
right,
there. That's
fair.
way more than Greta knows. I'll bet you billions of bucks on that.
Billions. Yeah, I mean,
Billions
after we get to some of
indeed.
the hyperinflation, that's not going to be a big deal. That's
So that brings me to my next fake news article.
okay.
Or
Did I give you a good segue without even
it's
realizing it?
one of the
Yes.
best, okay? At the dollar stores, right? They're all over the place. I imagine you've got one somewhere close to your neighborhood. The dollar stores are now charging $1.25. Items in the dollar store, no longer a dollar. They're $1. And due to the change shortage, if it's $3.75, you're paying $4.
No, just round up $4. I don't know
That
about that part. Like dollar 35. I'm sure they're going to be like, oh, maybe $1.50, maybe $2. But I did hear, I did see the $1.25 thing because me and our producer Bob were chatting about it on my Wednesday show.
I thought it was a joke, man. I laughed so hard. I was watching the Wednesday show and I'm like, oh, that's a good joke. I'm gonna use that.
No,
Then
that's
turns out it's absolutely true. And like, so guys, you want to know how we know that the dollar's getting deflated? Like the government can't even pay people enough money to make the change for the dollar bill. Like there's a sign in there somewhere that the
but
dollar is losing value and real metal type things are getting more expensive. So we have
all
this
right.
change shortage.
Quick policy question for you. Should we
Yeah,
eliminate the penny?
might as well. It's
Might
worthless.
as well.
It's not even worth
Might
a
as well
penny
now.
anymore.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not
yeah,
even
like literally, like the metal in it is worth more than 1 cent
It
now.
costs like $8 to make a penny. Who wants I mean, it's
$8.
ridiculous, isn't it? I think
I
it's
mean, like maybe next year, but like for now,
for
that's
now, it's only $3.
yeah, it was
Get
yeah,
rid of the
it's something
penny.
like 1.8 cents last time I checked, or like 2 cents like make each penny. And it's like, okay, like at what point in time does this stop making sense?
All right, bro, that's government math too. If they're saying 1.8 cents per penny, it's costing like a nickel. I
Yes,
swear to God,
exactly.
they always underestimate their costs. They do it all the time. It's literally corruption.
Yeah, no, I mean, so yeah, so I'm also in favor of eliminating, but it doesn't really make any sense. Like no one's using pennies for anything anymore. Like it's why just
They
round up,
should just round up.
just to whatever. Like we have like fractions of Bitcoin that we can use now. Like let's just do that instead.
The Satoshi, it goes all the way down to the
Satoshi, yeah,
Satoshi. I
yeah.
was a
I was trying
Bitcoin
to think of the name. That was like
yeah, I
what
was a
was it called?
Bitcoin miner for a while. Like I know
Oh,
all
did you
about it.
did you get any when you did it?
Yeah, but like I
Well,
don't know.
was it like 2008? Those are like, oh, Bitcoin, this is worth 30 cents.
No, I
Cool.
literally probably threw the paperwork away. Like I got a wallet, like a Bitcoin wallet somewhere, but like how do you keep track of that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I did try. I tried to do some like Litecoin mining for a while, but I was like, I'm gonna do this on a laptop. No, it didn't work.
I just let I opened up who knows, like the Microsoft Bitcoin miner. They probably got like $1 million off of all the time I let that computer run. You know that program run in the background.
Mhm.
I don't
No,
know
I
if
mean
you
it uses up a ton of resources, and like it's still doing work for like the system, right? But like if you don't get that random Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever it was, you're mining, like
yeah.
well, it's
They were already handing out the Satoshis back then, man. I have like I don't know. I know I have like 40 or 50 Satoshis, whatever they're worth right now.
okay. Wait, how much is this Satoshi is? Like what like fraction is it?
You ask a lot of good questions, Kevin. I can just
I
barely
put you on
remember
the
the name.
spot, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, I don't
Actually, it's
remember.
funny. I just had a friend text me like, "Hey, I got the Bitcoin back in 2013 because of you, and like, look, I'm doing great now."
I'm rich.
And I'm like, "Cool." Like, I sold what I had when it was 10,000 because like, man, there's no way. This is a bubble. There's no way it's going up from here.
No, my buddy has
I
1
made like
Bitcoin. Yeah,
$5 off of it.
yeah, my
Your
buddy
buddy had
has
one.
1 Bitcoin, and I think he bought it for like 5K. And he's like, I'm like, you ought to cash that out and buy yourself a truck. You need a truck. And he's like, yeah, maybe, but I have no idea how to cash it out. And I it's like, is it in Coinbase? And he's like, what's Coinbase?
Mhm.
Like,
So it's
how do you know you have a
old school
Bitcoin?
wallet, like back in the day, which is what like I had some on like a wallet too. I was like, oh, okay, so like you know,
So
go
he's
through.
it's very interesting. He knows he has like right now $50,000, $45,000, but at one point there he had $70,000. He just didn't know how to get it.
Wow. Yeah, that's. I feel like at that point, like you could probably pay someone to help you get it. That's
I,
it's worth
I
the investment. Well, if you want to, or you can hold it. You can
total
keep going.
forever. They're going to be worth $1,000,000. I keep seeing all this stuff like a Bitcoin's going to be $1,000,000.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what John McAfee, may he rest in peace, said, and there was a bet that I can't repeat on the radio about that he never delivered on, but he said he was going to eat part of himself if it didn't get to like $1,000,000 by like 2019 or something.
Like, maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe that
Oh,
was all
man,
part of the deal. I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, we're about out of time, folks. So thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're not going to answer. There's no truth to the rumor that Kevin is descendant from Woodrow Wilson. That is
There's
slander
evidence.
from or libel. Yeah, libel because you wrote it from my
I
co-host here.
I apologize for that. So that's a
So
defense to
funny.
libel. And publicly, I want to acknowledge that I'm only saying that there's evidence that you've descended from Woodrow Wilson,
Oh, okay,
not
okay.
that you've descended
Not
from
not that I
Woodrow Wilson.
actually am. Uh-huh,
Right.
uh-huh.
It's different.
Alright. Them's fighting words, Tim.
I know, buddy, and I'm sorry.
That's alright. Alright, thanks again for joining us on Free Solution. Have a wonderful night, folks, or afternoon, folks. Take care. Alright. We're over about like 15 seconds. It's probably fine.
I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we're still live on the
Yeah, we are.
interwebs.
We're still live on the interwebs. Thank you, folks, who are listening on the interwebs. Appreciate
Much
y'all being here.
appreciated. The likes, the comments, the shares, always appreciated. This old dude's got to get some sleep because he's got to be on the road and he's working by himself tomorrow. So
Oh, man.
my buddy,
So
maybe he figured out how to cash in that Bitcoin. He's taking a 3-day weekend.
nice. All right.
All
Have
right.
a
Take
good
care,
night,
everybody.
folks.